So I was reading an article this morning from this place that I get a newsletter. Honestly, I cannot remember the name of it, but it's all about organic foods and the things that we're doing wrong, the things that where we're harming ourselves, we're harming Mother Nature. Some of this stuff I have to take with a grain of salt. Some of it, I can see where I can somewhat believe it. This particular article was talking about grass-fed beef. Now, I'll be the first to tell you, I enjoy a good steak. I enjoy a good hamburger. And over the last few years, my wife has been trying to drive us toward more of a vegetarian style diet, which is not completely terrible, but for someone who just absolutely loves meat, then yeah, sometimes it gets to be a little irritating, a bit much, but she means well, and I don't fault her for it, because she just wants to make sure everybody is healthy and lives a long life. Because, I think she plans on living to 200 or something. But, no, I didn't really realize, I'd always heard that grass-fed beef was better. And I can attest to the fact that several years ago, when my father-in-law would raise a cow, and we would pitch in and pay part of the slaughter costs and prepping and all of that other kind of stuff, and we'd get a substantial size, substantial amount of the meat. That was some of the very best steak and hamburger meat I have ever eaten in my life. So the article talks about feedlots and how we are actually damaging ourselves in regards to the fact that the way we treat these animals, these cows, by putting them in feedlots and pumping them full of antibiotics, which I didn't realize at the time. The reason for the antibiotics is because what they're feeding these cows, which is corn and other feeds, it's not natural to a cow's diet. Now, that makes sense, of course. They graze on grass, and their stomachs are designed in such a way they're like huge fermentation tanks, and they take that grass and it gets fermented, through the process. It turns them, it builds meat, if you will, on their bones. So they raise a small calf, and then they move him off out of the pasture into feedlots, where they start pumping him full of antibiotics and growth hormones and feeding them corn and feed solutions. And the reason for the antibiotics is because a cow's stomach, if you will, and that's actually not what there's a technical term for it, is neutral. As far as the acidic levels, it's neutral. And the corn is very acidic. So you've got this chain reaction, which, if not controlled properly with antibiotics, and they say actually sometimes having to shove something down a cow's throat so they can breathe, swelling occurs to where it actually presses against their lungs and they will suffocate. So what we've got is we've got a meat meal, and it makes me really think about eating meat. I'm not some bleeding heart, we can't harm the animals, or we can't eat animals and that kind of stuff. I honestly, and I will always believe this, that we are designed to be meat eaters, but it's supposed to be a combination of vegetables and meat, what have you. But we can be humane about the way that we treat our food or food stock. And not only that, but when we're trying to be progressive and we're trying to kick up the numbers and the amount of whatever it is that we try to produce, we inherently seem to introduce an adverse effect where the antibiotics that we're pumping into the cows are now creating superbugs or antibiotic resistant strains of E. coli and all this other kind of stuff. And so we're essentially we're damaging ourselves, all in the name of progress. So I guess we all need to think about that the next time that we sit down and have a good juicy steak, either off of our own personal grills or at a restaurant somewhere. Well, I'm headed home, getting ready for another podcast at 7 o'clock. Brand new, well, it's actually a show that Randy and I have been doing for the past few weeks, but I started out as the Donovan Atkinson show, and since he decided that he wanted to be an integral part of it, I figured why the hell not? We'll call it the Don and Randy show. And it's just one of those shows where we sit and talk about pretty much anything. I scavenge the internet and find topics that I think might be of interest, and he really doesn't have time to do that. And of course, a lot of the things that I find, it just kind of catches him off guard anyway. Yes, I'm sitting out in the parking lot of where I work. I want to listen to a podcast on the way home, so I decided that I would shoot a little video right here, and that way I can listen to the podcast on the way home. I did finally take the plunge today. I've just been putting it off, and I knew that it would make a difference whether it was today or whether it was 2 months from now, but I'm upgrading my iPhone. I've got an iPhone 4. I'm upgrading it to a Samsung Galaxy S4. So hopefully, if the thing comes in tomorrow, or whenever it comes in, I'll do an unboxing, and I'll try to do that live. And of course, then I'll put the video up on the Anero Media YouTube channel. I know there's probably a lot of folks out there that have already done a live unboxing. You just never know. Somebody might like the way I do it. I've never had an Android phone. I've never had an Android device of any type. I started out with BlackBerry. I actually tried a Windows mobile phone. It was crap. We stayed with BlackBerry for the longest time. Yeah, BlackBerry's up until about, hell, I had a BlackBerry up until probably about a year before I left my previous job. And then I got my own iPhone, and I just had all my phone calls from that, the work number forwarded to mine, because I wasn't going to get the company to get me an iPhone at that time, so I was using my iPhone. So anyway, this will be interesting. I've never, I've got a few friends that have Android phones, and I've seen them use them, but I've never used one, so we'll see how that goes. I'll let you know. Like I said, I'll try to do an unboxing whenever I get it.